Hey everyone, hope you're having a good holiday. It's been a while since I've done a video. Been quite busy with AI courses, which I hope to talk to you about in another video. But anyway, I thought to jump in now and share with you a recent telecast of One News. Essentially, last night, as of this recording, I was a guest where we talked about the fears of AI on jobs and regulation, the usual stuff. And actually, there's a number of bills being filed now in Congress, and this has triggered the discussion on AI. So anyway, let's get to it and see what's happening.
And you're back watching the big story here on One News.
Now, automation and artificial intelligence has started making its way into our lives and workplaces. To help ease concerns over its impact on jobs, one lawmaker has filed a bill seeking to regulate AI. Quezon City Representative Arjo Ataide filed House Bill number 9448, a measure seeking to regulate the use of artificial intelligence and automation systems in the labor industry. Ataide called for a clear framework on the use of AI and government policies on adopting new technologies without risking job losses.
Ataidi's bill, as I said, is one of several bills that we're monitoring in the AAP and IBPAP. Some of the other bills include the National Center for AI Research, formation of a Philippine Council on AI, and a couple of other bills looking at the ethics and safety of it. I also am part of a newly formed AI committee on governance in the AAP, which hopefully will be announced in a matter of months, where we're looking seriously at crafting guidelines for schools, for public sector, for private sector, and how now we can start to seriously look at how AI can be used responsibly. So yeah, there's a lot of activity happening in this space, which I'm very happy about.
Now, artificial intelligence and automation are being used increasingly in different industries, prompting fears of displacement. Now, under the bill, employers and recruiters are banned from using AI as their primary basis for hiring and terminating employees. It also bans the use of AI to replace workers unless alternative work opportunities are made available.
This is going to be a challenge on banning AI for, let's say, CV and resume screening, because that's already being done in many cases. That's a classic use case in HR analytics. As to banning jobs, obviously some jobs, as you'll see in the discussion later, will probably go. Some jobs will stay, and some jobs will change. So I think it's really nuance that needs to be incorporated into these bills, because when you have a blanket discussion on banning everything, that's when things can go pretty south quickly.
Now, on the other hand, the bill also promotes labor augmentation through AI, given its benefits on productivity and cost optimization.
And here to help us parse through this issue, we have Doc Ligot, AI and technology consultant for IBPAP. So this is, of course, the IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines. Good evening, and
Good evening.
needless to say, you are pro-AI.
I have to be.
You have to be, that's your job. There's no way to go back, diba? This is there, this has been the buzzword of 2023. We've seen how it has helped in terms of productivity, but nevertheless, there's a lot of fears, especially with generative AI, when they start to think like humans, when they're taking skills that we don't even have ourselves. Give us an idea of what's going on in this space. Is there a real threat to humans, or is this all it's just gonna help us? It's all positive.
Yeah, great question. Very popular one. I think we need to determine first, when we say jobs, what kind of jobs? Like, for example, I keep saying Excel didn't kill accounting, but the internet definitely killed the encyclopedia salesman.
Right.
So there are two types of jobs, one that can be replaced and one that can be augmented. And maybe most jobs, I think the World Economic Forum estimated about 23% of jobs will change, not necessarily lost. Like, let's take what we're doing now. A couple of years back, we would be doing this on TV. For the most part, it still is, but I'm sure most of our viewers are watching this from the internet,
Correct.
from social media. So the job did not disappear. your jobs are relatively secure.
Well,
But it changed.
there are
Hopefully,
AI.
At this point, all of the hosts shifted on their seats, obviously with the advent of AI avatars doing newscasting, which, yeah, is a subject for another discussion. But yeah, everyone shifted when I said your jobs are relatively secure.
Newscasters, you know?
But I get what he's trying to say. Parang mag-evolve.
Yes.
Oo. But of course, there's an argument that AI, if regulated properly, can benefit us. But the real question is, who stands, diba? Who gains more, workers or businesses?
Well, okay. If we step back a bit, AI was more or less a niche technology, maybe 10 years back. And then now what's changed a lot is generative AI.
Yeah.
And the main thing that has changed is the access of it.
Yeah.
Before, you needed to be some sort of a mathematician, a doctor, a programmer to use AI. Now anyone can use it. So that carries pros and cons. Number one, the access means anyone can benefit from it. But then I think an emerging area of concern is the ethics of it. It's probably what is underpinning Congressman Atayde's bill. How can it be misused? And then going back to the jobs question, obviously I work closely with the IT BPM Association, the BPO sector. It's growing very vibrantly. I think we're going to end the year with 1.7 million jobs. The target is about 2 million by 2025, still on track. So in terms of actual data, we're not seeing AI affect job growth.
Just yet.
Yeah, but we need to look ahead. Like, what does this mean for the BPO sector and for other sectors? Again, it's back to Excel didn't kill accounting, but some jobs did disappear. So we need to now be very careful about which jobs will be augmented.
Yeah, because there's certain industries, and like what you said, like jobs that could be at risk. And, the fear is very understandable. Let's say, like you mentioned, BPOs, call centers, cashiers, ano pa ba?
Factory workers.
Correct. Designers, So what do you tell these people that are in these industries so that they can adapt? Because I think that's the only way to be able to
Transition.
ride this wave.
Yeah.
I mentioned in other talks, it's an interesting grouping of sectors who tend to be negative about AI versus those that are positive. Well, anyway, in a nutshell, I'm finding that those jobs that have a high level of credentialism, in other words, you need a lot of these degrees, certifications, tend to be quite negative about AI. And I don't know if that's going to be a fact eventually, about how AI seems to challenge traditional notions of capability, especially in humans. But those sectors that seem to be positive are the ones who are more output oriented. Like, I don't care if you have a PhD in X, as long as you can produce this output, and AI is part of that output. So anyway, thinking out loud.
I think one thing that's taken people by surprise, we were all expecting AI to go after the physical jobs, like factory workers, laborers.
Hindi.
But for some reason, it's gone after the white collar stuff.
Yeah.
Yun.
And jobs that previously we were comfortable, only humans could do, creative work. But even creativity, the creatives raised their eyebrow when I mentioned this. You have to split it between productivity, consistency, and originality. I think the originality part, humans still need to be there.
Right.
But doing things consistently and productively, that can only be good for everyone. 10x, 100x your output. That can be only good for pretty much anyone in the creative industry, agencies. Call centers and BPOs, I think there are some tasks that can be automated, but automating tasks doesn't mean removing jobs. Because jobs are more than just collections of tasks. There's a lot of relationship management involved, even in a typical voice, transaction.
Because recently I've seen in, let's say, fast food chains, no? Instead of before having 10 cashiers in front, now you have this robot where you can, encode your orders and get the slip and go to one cashier and, process everything.
Yeah,
That's an interesting thing. So back in the day, before all of these big screens, for example, in McDonald's, there was this interesting maneuver where if you have a very long line, you have somebody from the back come in and start taking your order and putting it on a slip of paper. which actually doesn't have a bearing on what you do with the cashier. The cashier can either get that paper, in most cases, they ignore it and ask for your order again. And apparently, that's kind of a behavioral hack because now that someone has taken your order on a piece of paper, your tendency is to stay on the line rather than to leave. And that's an old behavioral hack. And I think that is one of the things that will probably go away in the era of AI. Although I have seen queues in front of those monitors myself.
Let's use the fast food as a perfect example. So, yeah, there's a growing trend now. We have these big monitors where you put in your
Right,
order.
with your orders.
Of course, the data will say it better, but I can only guess that the number of orders they fill is probably much larger now
Yeah.
than with the like 20 cashiers and people taking your orders manually. But you had to move people from the cashier job to somewhere else. I think that's also another question for people. Are you in a job that could be automated out? That doesn't mean you go jobless.
Yeah.
You need to move into a more, I
The
would
AI
say,
can't cook. No?
yeah, well, not yet, but I've seen
Yes.
some attempts. Yeah, and then at the same time, it's also a company decision. Uh, are you after efficiency, or
Yeah.
are you after volume? The automation question is very different between those two questions. And the Philippines is still the number 2 destination for offshored work. And based on our last statistics,
That could grow.
yeah, it's still growing. I mean, what I heard
Opportunity
is
for
of the total number of offshoreable jobs, like jobs that could be
Yeah,
sent to
yeah.
us, only about 27%
Pa lang.
has
Oh,
been sent.
okay,
And that
okay.
includes India.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there's a lot of,
Ah, it's interesting.
a lot of
Yeah,
opportunity
yeah.
for us to
Okay.
pick that up.
Well, back to the regulation issue, right? First of all, should there be regulation? And I mean, with AI and emerging technology, how can anyone really say what is there to regulate?
I think the big problem with, in general, because I've been dealing with people in Congress and national government agencies, there needs to be a very very deep level of consultation because my general sense is there's a pressure to produce regulation, but there's not enough informed consultations happening. That's just my impression. And the problem there is if we overregulate or make a mistake in regulating, it's going to be very hard to reverse a law. I mean, we're already suffering under certain, weird laws, which I won't mention at the moment. AI needs informed consultation, but quick ones. That's the problem. When you want to get a lot of informed consultation, it takes forever to get things done. And so hopefully we have the merger of both quick and informed consultation on these regulations.
And also, is the government responsible for regulating AI or the private sector? You know, who has the jurisdiction over AI?
Yeah, I'd rather take the question to safety. Like, for
Okay.
example, I like using automobiles as an analogy.
Yeah.
You can be an automobile mechanic, you can fix the car, doesn't mean you can drive the car. And you can be a good driver, doesn't mean you can change spark plugs. But we license drivers,
Okay.
not mechanics necessarily. And the reason for that is if you're a drunk driver, you can actually kill someone. So you need to be regulated as a driver. Vehicles need to be registered. So in the same manner, AI is potentially entering that era where everyone can be a driver of AI, but then you can use AI to hurt people. So the question do we need regulation? Yes.
Okay.
What kind of regulation? I think that's something worth discussing
Yeah,
with the
I
lawmakers.
think the lawmaker is trying to regulate the jobs that would be lost by AI.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think,
How do you do that?
yeah, back to the original question, we need to determine which jobs. And secondly, there's a wide area of discussion. Is it how the employers treat the workers? Is it the kinds of rights workers have? Like very recently, freelancers just got a bill giving them the same rights as employees.
Right.
For the longest time,
Yeah,
they didn't
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah,
anything.
yeah.
So in the same manner, we need to also look at
Okay.
that angle when you want to regulate jobs and AI.
I have another issue here, for the pay. What happens when you integrate AI? Does that impact a person's pay? Because theoretically, you're going to be higher skilled, or the company is going to have fewer employees.
Yeah, I mean the issue on income, apart from universal basic income, I see tends to fall into the same general trap as whether jobs will be lost. People tend to be quite binary about it. Either you keep your job or you lose your job. The likelihood is you'll keep a modified job, modified by AI. In the same manner, people are also thinking, will incomes skyrocket because of a demand for, I don't know, prompt engineers or AI engineers, or will AI render certain jobs kind of obsolete, so the salary drops? And again, the reality is probably somewhere in the middle, where certain skills will be high in demand, but in terms of general jobs, it's still going to be based on how productive you are and how well you do the job. That's probably the probable outcome. But it's very hard to appreciate that when in on a sound bite, right?
Because they're going to be needing fewer employees but at a higher pay. Is
Yeah.
that the direction that's
So
going to happen in the sector?
let's zoom into the far future. You might have heard of a term called universal basic income. That's something being pushed by some of the AI visionaries. And the idea there is, in the far future, most jobs are being done by machines. Humans need some sort of a basic income to continue living. But then that means you have more time on your hands to do other things that
Correct,
machines are not
yes.
doing. Now, the transition to that is the bigger question.
Okay.
Like, which jobs go first? What kind of automation is happening before others? And I think there's a lot of opportunity that is, I think, more opportunity than risk. As I said, we're not offshoring more than 27% of jobs. So while we automate the jobs that we already have, that gives us room to take in more work, more product. Like the BPO industry grew by 8% in 2023. That's much higher than the national economic
GDP,
growth.
yeah.
So we're an indispensable part of the economy. And for as long as that is happening, the BPO sector will be the forefront, in adopting AI and looking at automation.
Do you think we're adapting fast enough to AI here in the Philippines?
My personal opinion is we have a lot to improve. Biggest area of concern is skills. So every time I have a discussion on jobs that could be sent to the Philippines, it's never a question of demand. It's just that we can't provide enough warm bodies. So upskilling is a priority.
And there's a lot of initiatives going on here. The AAP and the IBPAP are both part of an initiative to craft a Philippine skills framework. This is with the DICT, basically as a way of standardizing how industry and schools understand skills for a certain role. Because apart from a lack of qualified supply, okay, so if you have a jobs demand, employers want to hire a lot of people. When I say we can't produce enough warm bodies, it's not necessarily just because there aren't people who are available to work. There's actually a lot. But what we're suffering from is this problem of a mismatch. In other words, the skills that people are learning, the skills that you probably learned in school, are not cookie cut for what jobs are asking for. So that mismatch, the closer we can align those two things, the better. And that's part of the skills problem that we need to address.
We also need to look at the education sector. Too long for the show to discuss. And it's also about upgrading skills.
Yeah.
Some of the skills, frankly, that we're teaching our children are outdated.
Yeah.
So we need, children to start moving to digital skills, and even occupations need to be updated as well.
But compare us to other countries, because we're digital natives here in the Philippines, diba? We use a lot of Facebook, etc., GCash, and all of these things that some other countries, they're not even as let's say, digital savvy as we are. Do we have some level of advantage?
I think the basis
In
for
AI
yeah,
specifically?
there were at least 2 surveys. One was by Electronic Hub in the middle of April, where we're apparently number 1 in the world in terms of interest in AI. So
Aba.
per capita.
Oh.
And I hope it's not just students searching for a way to
Right.
cheat their
I
essays.
hope
no?
it's in a good way.
Yeah, but then more
Like the
recent.
intention would have been.
Yeah, but more
Okay.
recently there was another survey where, in terms of actual use, we're number 4. But number one is US,
high,
number
yeah.
2 is India, number 3 is Indonesia. So these are countries with far larger populations.
Interesting.
So we're not doing too badly.
Okay.
But I think that's for me an opportunity to double down. So all I want to say is, despite the infrastructure challenge, internet connectivity and all that,
And archipelago.
yeah, and
situation.
archipelagic country, we're still doing pretty well. So imagine if we're able to pave that digital highway for everyone, especially areas that are still uncovered by internet. Imagine.
Realistically, is it still expensive to integrate it now? Or companies can afford it now?
Well, in terms of AI,
Yeah,
the
commodity
barrier
na ba?
the barrier to entry is very low.
Yeah,
You pretty
okay.
much just need an internet connection to start using ChatGPT, right? I think the bigger challenge would be, is your data secure? So cybersecurity.
Security.
Second,
For that.
do you have the requisite skills? I mean, even if you had a chatbot, do you know how to prompt it properly? And then from a process standpoint, you can't just throw AI into any company and
Yes,
suddenly
yeah,
magically
yeah.
it will automate. You have to have a look at your processes, which parts need to go, which parts need to be created. It's an interesting journey if people started to look at it.
You know, there's a difference between company adoption and individual adoption. People tend to conflate the two, and it's because AI is still kind of considered an IT thing. On a personal level, the barrier is very, very low. You just need to connect to the internet, log on to any chatbot, start using it. And that's where learning prompt engineering is important. For a company, there's still a level where employees can start using the chatbots, start using generative AI, start using image generation tools without IT intervention for as long as privacy and security are not a problem. And then you get to the actual enterprise adoption, which requires the usual due diligence, security, architecture. But even at that point, you can still split it into two. You know, there's still room for, let's say, small and medium enterprises mostly to use generative AI without significant IT help. And the ultimate level is where you want your own, personalized, customized chatbot for your company, and that's where maximum IT intervention is needed. So there are levels, eh. But for people, again, back to binary, either you're using it or you're not using it. There's actually levels of use. And as I said, the first level where you're using it as a person or as an employee or as a professional, the barrier is very low.
But achievable.
Absolutely
Definitely
achievable.
There you have it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and of course for all of your insights. That was IBPAP's AI and tech consultant Doc Ligot.
Yeah, so that was it. As I said, it's been a while since I've done videos. It was actually freezing in that studio for a fact. I don't know how the hosts do it with the what with without any jackets, but yeah, I was very happy with that interview, and in a way, it's a good way to end the year. You know, I started this journey, early 2023. Kind of surprised that no one wanted to talk about AI, or at least generative AI openly. And now we're ending the year where it's now not just a buzzword, it's kind of part of everyday life. Adoption can still increase, and we have moves on the legislative front to actually put some rules and regulations in place. And I think, I mean, all things considered, that's not a bad place to end 2023. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and stay tuned for more videos coming up. I plan to put up a lot around the New Year's. So in the meantime, stay safe, have a happy New Year, and keep using AI responsibly.